This is 24 minutes.
Damn sense.
I'm just saying, you lasted 24 minutes of our show before you effed off on Castlevania. So that's pretty. I was if I had been betting on DraftKings, I would have lost because I would have definitely gone the under instead of the over on the times.
Now, I will say, and you asked me about this when we first chatted about it a couple days ago, Lil Chad. You were like, you were like, so how bad was it? And I was like, it was fucking terrible, but I'm gonna watch season 2. So, like you said, Alucard needs to come back, right?
Yep.
You see him in the final 20 seconds of the final episode.
So he's the stinger, like the Marvel stinger.
Dude, he's the hook that's gonna bring you back for season 2.
Hey, John. How are you doing?
You aren't telling us any lies, right, Slender Dad?
I wouldn't tell you no lies.
The hook brings you back.
And I did look up. Yeah, Warren Ellis was cut from Castlevania because of some allegations.
Oh, yeah. Warren Ellis. I remember. All right. So all right. Let me give you I can do a quick explainer on Warren Ellis.
Okay, here's your quick explainer that's going to last 30 minutes. Go ahead, Chad.
It's a real quick one. Warren Ellis was a really popular comic book writer. He ran an internet forum on his own website where people would go and chat because this was the early O's when people did that. He chatted with girls who were all of age, consenting, full-grown adult women, and then ended up having fully consensual relationships with them. And then these women didn't end up becoming big comic book writers because they were trying to use Warren Ellis to get their foot in the door for being comic book writers. And so they got butthurt and then said he love bombed them and took advantage of them because he didn't give them jobs while they had
because he was in a position of power or something, even though they're of age and
and so
consensual relationships.
So this is
so he was grooming them.
Basically. Yeah. So that's the thing, but none of them were underage when they met. Like these were all like upper 20s to mid 30s women.
Yeah. I remember this story. Adult. He was a player. Like he was essentially a player that slept around and then people want to use him, like women want to, and then when they couldn't, they made allegations.
It was, and it had been years, and it was so they right when the Me Too stuff was percolating, they decided to try to take down Warren Ellis, and they did. He got all his jobs canceled, but he is a great writer.
Which is why
he's not a good person, but he clearly, look, I'm not going to say he was doing the right thing by sleeping around. I think you try to find and be whatever, but none of it was illegal. None of it was wrong. None of it none of it was anything illegal that should have resulted.
What any of the other guys he worked with on a daily basis were doing.
And my favorite, but none of it was worse than what the women were trying to do, which was they were only given this schlubby looking writer guy the time of day because they thought they could get a job out of it. And when they made the allegations, they were specifically saying they were upset that he didn't end up getting them jobs in the comic book industry. So tell me that is not like when I was, and Slender and Brahma, you're old enough to maybe remember when you got your first jobs and you started getting your sexual harassment training, and they were explaining quid pro quo was like when the person makes you have a relationship to get something. That means that the women were the ones sexually harassing him because they were only giving him what he wanted in order to get the jobs, and they're just upset that he didn't deliver.
Yeah.
And anyway,
well, speaking of schlubby writers, before we get into the Continental, there is one more Castlevania related bit of news I would like to go through and discuss with you guys.
Sure.
Okay.
Is there a new game?
No, God, no. I mean, that might help, but no, it's an article from Forbes.
I'm already disappointed.
Netflix Castlevania Nocturne again proves the uselessness of user reviews. So what Forbes is trying to tell you is that what the fans actually think is not important.
Yeah, it's only the entitled elite that can give a review, not your average person.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to go through the article with you guys.
Sure.
But before we do, I will caveat this by saying I've already read the article, and Paul Tassi, senior contributor, you are a total piece of shit and don't deserve to write for anyone ever.
I think I remember this dude's name because he used to write articles about Destiny that would always come up when I was doing a search about like the newer download DLCs that were coming out back when I was playing that game before I just gave up on it.
No, I fucking hate this guy. I don't even know who he is, but
he's had bad takes before.
With talk like that, you're going to get him a raise from Forbes. That gives them a hard on.
Oh, I don't know because
like they love that shit.
It's not like Bungie is going to be writing any checks anytime soon. They've moved on to Chinese money. Destiny's not making it.
But listen to this shit he wrote. I was excited to see that Netflix's Castlevania Nocturne was reviewing extremely well. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, living up to the high scores of the previous show.
I don't think you're being flamboyant enough in your reading.
I'm not doing it like you do. One of the best game adaptations of all time. But I was perplexed by the 52% audience score. Literally half of the 100% and rotten, as it were. I wondered what was going on here, and it's another one of these.
It's one of those. It's one
We're
of those.
Those people.
We're those, yeah.
Oh, and even italicized.
It's another one of those. It's another one of those. It's got all those deplorables mad.
I cannot agree with the bad writing, bad characters complaints at all that you see in the user reviews, but instead, a lot of focus is put on what else? Its prevalence of black characters and other characters of color, altering a few origin stories to make that work. There's a through line of oppression and the horrors of slavery in the plot, and outside of that, a focus on gay characters as well. All right, so he said he can't agree with the bad writing, bad characters, and dismisses it. Then he proceeds to create a series of straw mans, and it's not that big a deal that he can argue instead. Despite the fact that if you read most of the comments, nobody's all that pissed off about the race swap. Like I am. I think it's stupid. I hate it. Mostly I'm just pissed off because it happens so much nowadays.
Yeah, it's the lazy version of writing. Oh, hey, I got a creative idea. We'll just change the race of this character. No, totally new story. Like it's meaningless.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of this when they create these straw men when they act like it's completely irrelevant to point out that they're putting this story in a actual historical time period that people are very familiar with.
Extremely familiar with.
I mean, the French Revolution, you can't just suddenly decide that the French Revolution was led by people of color. It didn't happen that way. Robespierre was not black. Like these, you can't just go.
Well, he also wasn't a 110-pound girl named Maria, but
yeah.
Well, according to the BBC,
false shield
you guys
for bad
are wrong.
writers. Yep. Yeah, I mean the BBC. My wife watches a lot of those BBC like period dramas, and a couple years back they did one where they cast Anne Boleyn as a black woman.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty recent.
Yeah, and it was
a couple years back,
and it was the stupidest thing. Like, because everybody, I'm sorry, you can't. It's one of those things where when they do special effects, they used to call it the uncanny valley, right? Where your brain can't process it doesn't work, and you can't take it seriously. It just turns off, like, because everybody, if you've read history and you know history, you know exactly who Anne Boleyn is, who Henry VIII is.
And here's the thing, it's kind of like Hamilton, right? I don't have a big problem with Hamilton, but it's not fair. It's not fucking. You're not.
Hamilton was an asshole who was in favor of a national bank that set the stage for the. Well, we don't need to get into that, but so that is unfair, right, Brahma? Brahma knows what I'm talking about.
Exactly, that's the part that's unfair that we ever had to deal with Hamilton.
Exactly.
Just wait until you get to the conspiracy around Titanic and all the three major players that were opposing
The Federal Reserve all died. Yep, and they all got killed. Yep.
Yeah, it was funded by the people that started it,
and are upset. Freed slave Annette has the most screen time, which she does. She has more screen time than the main fucking character. My favorite is multiple reviews that call it Wokelvania, the most contorted inclusion of the word woke I've ever seen. The show
I don't know. That's actually sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, it fits to me. Wokelvania, that fits. That's actually I've seen woke worked in a lot worse ways. So he
doesn't like it because it sounds good.
Well, the thing is, you can tell he doesn't know anything about Castlevania because there's a whole thing called Metroidvania where you always, mix the words with Castlevania stuff.
Yeah. The show constantly beats you over the head with current day talking points, another review says, which it does. It's a good show, Press X'd out. I don't know what else to say. The worst thing you can say about it is that it may not be quite as good as the original series, but that is an incredibly high bar, so it's no real surprise. I cannot tell you how exhausted I am of user reviews for projects like this. This keeps happening over and over, where some established IP includes some characters of color or different orientation, and the knives come out.
Well, they're actively trying to change the original IP to suit their current day trends.
Yeah, I wish it was just as simple as you included some characters of color or different orientation and the knives came out. Yeah. No, that's not why the knives came out, you miserable, arrogant fuck. The knives came out because they race swapped characters that weren't characters of color into characters of color. They changed every fucking character's sexual orientation, sometimes multiple times during the course of the fucking show. They introduced new characters that didn't even fucking exist in the games. They fucked everything up. Everything.
Tell us how you really feel, son.
Just because a couple of characters' color and some different sexual orientations. Oh, you dumb motherfucker. Rotten Tomatoes has a particular problem with this. They crack down on user reviews when it comes to movies, given that there's a system in place to prove you watched a film before reviewing it. This was instituted after mass review bombing of Captain Marvel due to offhand comments Brie Larson made about the male-dominated critic industry, which is absolutely true.
Can we just hold on? This is how,
and that same crowd has been hounding her ever since. Okay, go.
This is exactly what not to go all political, but what mainstream media institutions do, where they've decided what the narrative should be going forward, and they basically make, they keep, every time they'll refer back to something that happened in history, they're going to frame it a specific way, so eventually that becomes the what is known and becomes the standard. Brie Larson, it wasn't just some offhand comment she made. It wasn't. Brie Larson is an insufferable. I almost dropped a C word. So
how dare you, Chad? We don't accept that type of language here.
Yeah, don't do that while we're streaming on my channel too.
I know, but and Brahma, I think you probably were plugged in by that point, right? You had kind of started paying attention. I know Slender was. I mean, it wasn't like Brie Larson was a soundbite bitch machine. like she was constantly,
all the press where she was with the other Avengers actors, and
you could see like it was. There's the famous clip where Don Cheadle gives her the look like I don't want to be around you, or when she had that little back and forth with Chris Hemsworth, and he was like, and he's like, what's my daughter's favorite character? He's like Wonder Woman, and she's like, well, maybe Captain Marvel, and he's basically like, no.
Nope.
I'm the only one that did my own stunts. He's like, really?
Really? Are you though? And
really?
It's the same. He's doing the same. Yeah, he's doing the same goofy look like when he's doing a comedy, because he knows she's just stupid. Like, oh, I hate when they do this, because what's going to happen is this is going to get reprinted over the next 5-10 years. And when people look back, this is just going to be the accepted narrative of what happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they've done. Yeah.
The problem is the TV reviews have no such barrier in place. People cannot watch the show, watch 2 episodes, or just hear about it from others, and start spamming those 1 stars, while many people actually just say the quiet part out loud. It's too woke. Others code it with the bad writing, bad characters claim. The writing, of course, being the woke parts mainly. The characters being those of color, usually. See,
one second. So they're suggesting that if you give a 1 star, it always means that you're review bombing. What happens to all the people that are just 100%ing it without ever watching? Like this happens all the time on both sides.
Yeah, and furthermore, how can a guy who reviews games say that when half the fucking game reviewers in the industry all didn't play Hogwarts Legacy and were just like, nope, it was written by a bitch, so we're gonna give it 0.
Yeah, like it absolutely asinine take, and this is happening so often now. There's the Robin Hood dude. He's like, oh, I'm getting bad reviews, so it's being review bombed. Like,
no, maybe you're giving bad reviews because you wrote a shit show.
Yeah,
and like, I think, and Yeti's got
is it just people doing normal reviews?
And Yeti's got a great point, because I've looked on Rotten Tomatoes on the content that we track, and there is just as much, if not more, of a problem of review, I guess, spamming. Like, what would be the alternative bombing? Like, review inflating. Like, they're like inflating the goddamn hot air balloon,
right?
Yeah, okay, love bombing. There's a love bombing.
I don't like the idea of that.
Or it's basically, you can tell they're bot accounts that these, like, and we've proven. What was it? Which one came out? Was like, they were buying critic scores for like $50, which is
it's been going on for ages.
What's funny is we found out it was cheaper to buy a critic score than it was to buy the bot farm to get the user reviews, which is terrible. Like, the critics were selling out for like a sandwich, because
we've got a perfect example of the exact opposite of this. As soon as we're done with this, we can just pull up the Variety reviews of the Continental, the Rotten Tomatoes reviews of the Continental, the Guardian, IGN, every single one of them.
I've got the Rotten Tomatoes,
the Continental, all because Mel Gibson was in it, and long before the show came out.
Yeah,
there were articles being written as soon as he was announced to be in the show, and then it's immediately been made horrible on the reviews lists.
And he's easily the best part in that show,
and
hands down.
Before we get to Continental, because I do have a lot to say about Continental too. One more paragraph here.
Focus.
And this is the most self-masturbatory paragraph of the whole thing. I'm just tired of this. I think user reviews can be interesting when we see splits from critics that are not rooted in racism or sexism. I think they can be useful in, say, gaming, somewhere like Steam, where you must own a game and users can push back against meaningful problems with the game, though it's still a flawed system. But Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic have got to get a handle on this. So I know there's a side that says it's critic reviews that are useless, but user reviews, these systems have never been worse.
So here, I'm gonna call this guy a fucktard, because Netflix Netflix had a system where they let you, remember all the users used to be able to rate by stars, and it was like, this is exactly what this guy wanted, where only the people who were watching the shows were rating it. And they had to get rid of it because Amy Schumer, and Yeti's right, Amy Schumer's stand-up special was so loathed.
Like a leather one or something?
Yeah, I forget whichever one it was. It got like, it was, I think its average score was like 1.5 stars, which is terrible. And so that's when Netflix shifted to just thumbs up, thumbs down, and they wouldn't show you anymore if a show was good by users. They would only just use your thumbs down and thumbs up choices to start recommending content to you. They completely eliminated people actually rating their content.
And now they've added in a super thumbs up. Like, so they're just going back to their original system.
Yeah, and Adam was making a good point.
And that is actually true. That shit happens on Steam all the time.
Yeah, they hide the negative reviews. So it's, this guy basically just, I am a tastemaker. My opinion is what should matter, not you plebs.
he's an elitist twat that's got his head so far up his own ass he can't see what the regular people are doing. He can't fathom the idea that somebody has a different opinion that's not based in this sphere of sexism and
wait
racism.
A second. Mr. Paul Tassi has 2 sci-fi novels, Hero Killer and the Earthborn trilogy. It would be a real shame if people, put reviews on Amazon for that. I'm just saying.
We're not endorsing that.
I wouldn't even.
I will close it out by saying this, though. Paul Tassi, you are a fucking moron. You are either being incredibly intellectually dishonest, or you are, in fact, the dumbest person on the face of the planet. And whenever you want, you have an open invitation to come on this show and correct the record. But I don't think you have the balls, motherfucker.
Oh, no, they're in someone else's purse.
All right, so I think Brahma shared, a link that would be a good transition from this story, which is Variety's Continental review. Okay, let me get that a little bigger.
Enlarge.
Because look right in the headline. John Wick Hotel prequel, The Continental, isn't worth a stay, and not just because of Mel Gibson. And Yeti was right. Mel Gibson it is a scene-chewing, over-the-top villainous performance for a character who is supposed to be a scene-chewing, over-the-top villain.
Well, not only that, so I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And in the second episode, when are we going into spoilers or anything?
It's going to be hard not to.
All right, so let's
hold off on spoilers for now.
So there's a certain point where there's a discussion going on.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, well, you're talking about the last thing. Let's start at the beginning, man.
No, but I just want to talk about his facial movements. The subtlety in the way he reacts to what is going on is insane. It is such incredible acting. You can see his happiness change to hatred just with an inflection of his eyes and cheeks. Like, he is so good at changing in a instant of a second, and it's just without saying a single word. Like, watching that, I was like, holy shit, Mel Gibson is on another level of being an actor. He's gotten better with age.
Yeah. I think the message was aimed at Brahma. I'm disappointed only by Christopher Walken not being in it.
Walken can't be in everything. He's busy. He's the Emperor in the new Dune.
And that was great casting, by the way.
Yeah, we hope.
Because if you go back to Mel Gibson's career, like what launched him in America, I mean, obviously he was Mad Max, and that was fairly successful. But Lethal Weapon is really when he just went off the charts in the US for fame. And what Mad Max and his character from Lethal Weapon have in common is they both have, like, and this is what Yeti was talking about, they just have like they're psychotics behind, like they're ready to snap at any minute.
Yeah.
And these were the hero characters he was playing, but the reason Mel Gibson was there is because, and as we found out later in his personal life, clearly he has rage that can be unleashed at a moment's notice, and it's there. And in this case, with the Continental,
is he an Aussie?
Yeah,
he's actually American. He was born in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, but he was raised in Australia. Like he was family, still 2.
His family moved there when he was like 8.
So it depends on either or. Like, really. How do you define it at that point?
His family moved there because, as some people may know, Mel Gibson is a very specific type of Catholic, like old school Catholic. They didn't recognize Vatican II. This is getting into some. Slender knows that what I'm talking about as a Catholic. Vatican II was a controversial change where this is where they started doing mass in the local language rather than Latin, and they made a lot of changes. I believe that's when they started allowing people to eat meat on Fridays outside of Lent. And so Mel Gibson's family.
A little before my time. I know about it, but I don't.
Vatican II was like in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, so a little.
It was right after World War II. The Pope gathered together an ecumenical council, Vatican II, and they basically reformed how the Catholic Church was going to function in the modern world, in air quotes. And there's a lot of people who are very traditional Catholics, Mel Gibson's family being one of them, who didn't like that. So Mel Gibson's dad moved his whole family to Australia so he could basically be Catholic the way he wanted to be instead of being part of that.
Interesting.
So that's also why Mel Gibson was also a very strong Catholic. I mean, you can see that in the choices he made for his own movies that he made, like Passion of the Christ. He was very committed to his religion. And until he had his personal demons come in and kind of intercede, he hadn't had to deal with some of that stuff. But anyway, going on. Point being, he's really good in this show, and it's because he can be I think it's a good evolution of him as an actor. This happens to a lot of actors who play heroes when they're younger. They're just really good at also becoming villains later.
Well, he's really good at controlling the crazy eyes. He turns them on and off when he needs to.
Oh God, it's way beyond just crazy. Like in fact,
yeah,
there's an entire scene where he's giving the speech, and then you got 30 seconds of him not saying a word. It's just his facial expression as he's trying to get out the words, and there's no craziness there. It's sorrow and sadness for needing to deliver the news that they're not going to be able to like keep going, and he just can't get it out, and it's just all in the face. He is so much more than just a crazy actor. Like you could see him start crying and absolutely incredible the facial acting.
The scene, and if we're not getting into spoilers yet, but the scene where he's got his guys in his office and he's explaining the consequences of not following what he's asking them to do. So intense, but he's so controlled while he's doing it.
Yeah.
But he's still got that intensity. It's a perfect villain moment. And I don't understand this. They're prejudging Mel Gibson for his outside of the show behavior that they don't like. They've never actually, and here's the crazy thing. I think a lot of the press people hate Mel Gibson more for creating the Passion of the Christ and how successful that was.
Probably.
Than what happened with him on tape with his former girlfriend, baby mama.
Otherwise, what's his face? The guy who shot the girl, Alec Baldwin. If it was just based on that, Alec Baldwin would have been kicked out of Hollywood a long time ago. He said so much worse stuff.
Yeah, he said it.
And that's the thing too. Like, that's a private conversation that wasn't being recorded. I'm sure in private conversations, we've all said really fucked up shit. At one point or another, you say really fucked up shit.
No, but
yeah, you should hear Chad backstage.
Yeah,
Alec Baldwin has done it multiple times when it wasn't private conversation.
Alec Baldwin murdered a girl.
Yeah. Like, so we're forgetting about those things. But if you compare what Alec Baldwin did compared to Mel Gibson, it's night and day. It doesn't even hold a candle.
And at one point, Mel Gibson was one of the biggest actors in the world. Alec Baldwin's never been at that level.
No, Alec Baldwin had a moment where he could have been. It was right after The Hunt for Red October. They wanted him to come back for Patriot Games. Patriot Games, which turned out to be one of the biggest hits of the early 90s. But he said no, he didn't want to get typecast into being, into that kind of thing. And so Harrison Ford was like, yes, I'll take that, please. And he did Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger as Jack Ryan, and they were fantastic. People don't even realize that Alec Baldwin played the same character in Hunt for October now, because it was such a disparate change.
Well, they never really had the world together. They're totally separate movies.
They kept James Earl Jones for each movie. They kept the supporting kid. Like James Earl Jones was in all the ones as as the CIA director.
Yeah,
that's probably more coincident, like because they were trying to maintain a world with that. Oh, there's no marketing behind like, oh, these are the Jack Ryan series.
They were at the time. They were going to spin off Willem Dafoe's character from Clear and Present Danger, which was the first screen appearance of what's his character's name? Because Liev Schreiber's played him, and then
I can't remember the name.
Without Remorse is the book that was about his character.
But if they were trying to do it, they did a shit job at making those movies connected.
I mean, I think
I
might be
they were just connected in those Tom Clancy's blah blah blah.
Yeah, but they weren't even listed as. You don't go look for Tom Clancy's Hunt for Red October. It's just the Hunt for Red October.
Yeti, you might not be old enough to appreciate how big Tom Clancy was. Like,
no, I know he was massive, but it wasn't under the Tom Clancy umbrella. They just made standalone movies.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a connected story universe. It was just their standalone movies, and a couple characters had replayed roles, but they weren't trying to. This is the Jack Ryan trilogy.
I see.
They were just standalone movies.
Note, I went and read part of the article in one of the links you sent us, Brahma. The Continental from the World of John Wick review. There was no need to cast Mel Gibson in this prequel.
Yeah.
And they're like, why did you cast an actual villain to play the villain? And I'm like, I thought that was like the rule now, right? Only gay people can play gay people. Only trans people can play trans people. Only villains can play villains. Seems like Mel Gibson was the perfect person to cast for this role by Hollywood standards.
By their rules, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point, right? You can't cast for someone who can be a good actor. I'm amazed they haven't canceled Tom Hanks yet for having won an Oscar for Philadelphia, because wasn't that appropriation? He appropriated being a gay man with AIDS in the 90s, and so clearly he's terrible.
Yeah.
But look, this is the line I think that stands out to what Brahma was saying. Look, the involvement of Mel Gibson barely manages to rank. That at least is a major accomplishment. So the critic who's
the involvement of Mel Gibson is one of the highest ranking points the show has going for it.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, that was the reason why I watched it. Like, oh shit, Mel Gibson's in this? I'm going to give it a shot.
Like,
everybody did a pretty good job acting, but he stood out.
He absolutely talks about spilling blood on in the Continental.
Yeah.
And what it means to be excommunicado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Latin. It means you're fucked.
Yeah. It was like the way he delivers it is so good.
And then he goes through that whole thing and he's talking about the guy. I mean, if I were you, I'd throw myself off the nearest balcony.
Yeah.
Emperors makes a good point. Give him a few years, Tom Hanks might surprise us. Yes. I mean,
yeah, no shit.
All right.
Okay,
I think
this is a little off topic.
All right.
Tom Hanks has come out and said he wants to play a Batman villain, but they won't cast him. He's like, I just want to be a Batman villain.
Who's he gonna play? Unimposing man?
He's a decent actor. There is something. Hugo Strange. Hugo Strange. He could do that.
The ventriloquist. He could be. Because
there's roles.
The guy who walks around with the puppet is supposed to be like a super meek, unassuming kind of Joe Schmo. Tom Hanks could pull that one off.
Either way, there's roles, and
all right, spoiler time. Sweet.
All right, I think we've talked over it a lot, we started getting into a little bit of spoilers. So me and Brahma are the two who've seen the whole show.
Yeah,
I will say right now the weakest link for me out of the entire show, it wasn't even any of the women. It was the guy who played
the brother.
No, the concierge.
No, the brother was awesome.
Oh,
Lance
Reddick, concierge.
Sharon. Yeah, because he's playing Lance Reddick, and he just isn't Lance Reddick, and it doesn't work.
Did they make him gay?
No.
Can we go over
no? He actually
episode
wasn't.
2.
It is highly implied. They hinted at gay.
No,
he was
though.
highly implied.
No, all right, they might have implied that the cellist guy was, but he wasn't.
Okay.
No.
No,
You
all right,
go
you didn't
rewatch
watch
that scene.
I understand.
He was so into it.
Yeti, I've seen the 3rd episode, so I know when he talks. Brahma has too. So
Okay,
and I said no before the 3rd episode, and I can give you the reasons.
Yeah, please, because I watched it. I'm like, shit, did they turn Lance Reddick's character gay? Because it really felt that way.
No, it was.
I mean,
it was 2 dudes who were friends. It was
they're friends. Close. It doesn't always have to be gay. Their friendship is spawned from the love of music. They say that Sharon's dad is a world-class musician. He plays the violin. They say that in that episode. So of course, in this hotel, there's a whole bunch of guys working there, and then there's these 2 younger boys. Yes. So of course they're going to be friends. I mean, and then the music thing ties them together.
So I think it's interesting.
They implied that he might be, but not Sharon.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things where 2023 lenses have kind of jaded us a little bit. That the same way that all the social justice people want to make everything gay, we're worried that they are making everything gay.
It's hard not to think that's the direction they're going.
I know, but to me, it's
99% of the time that is, because there's another scene where I'm not sure, but the white vet who they're like, oh yeah, you love him, don't you? And I'm like, what kind of love are they talking about right now?
His brother?
Oh
no,
yeah,
the white vet, the army vet who's always down there hanging out with her brother, the black vet, because they were together in the military,
giving really bad exposition.
Like, you love him, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I love him. And I'm like, what kind of love are they talking about?
That's just Band of Brothers military.
I mean, I hope so.
No, by the 3rd episode, all that stuff is cleared up pretty good.
Okay. Because the 2nd episode was a fucking train wreck.
No, the 2nd episode was just
no. It was a fucking train wreck. Go back and watch it again.
What it needed to be.
Yeah.
You had to put the team together so that the 3rd episode could be what it is. You got to look at this as a trilogy of movies, not as a TV show.
Or as a traditional miniseries, which is all right. People are so unattuned to the fact that there used to be things called miniseries that would be 2 or 3 episode events.
Like I've got no issues with that.
Or North and South, or V, the final battle.
And if this is only a 3-part series, they wasted so much time in episode 1 and episode 2. It should have been on the cutting room floor. If this is a 3-part series, it was so unnecessary. The story
it exactly needed to tell, and it does it very well.
It's telling a specific story. It's not doing more than that.
There's a lot that could have been edited.
And they left it open for possibly another run.
No, my thing is this: editing is not an issue with this. It's actually got very little to do with editing. I think the first episode was really fucking good. Like, after episode 1, I had this at like an 8.5, 9. Episode 2 pulled that down to about a 6.5, because there was a lot of shit that happened in episode 2 that just, one, furthered very specific plot points. Like, they introduced a lot of progressive subplots in episode 2. For example, the black martial arts girl kicks the shit out of 4 guys that are all bigger and stronger than her.
The dojo stuff is irrelevant. Like, that's what I mean by the editing. The entire JoJo segment. If this is only 3 episodes,
so by the time you watch the 3rd one, it has a payoff, and it is relevant.
Yeah, because it seems so worthless at this
point. The whole investigation line had me questioning, and they paid that one off. They pay off everything in this.
I hate that. I hate her and the sheriff guy, or whatever the hell he is. Those 2 characters, like, I know that, like, I don't mind that they're in the show and that they have an arc. I just hate them as people. Like, they're horrible human beings.
Yeah, they're not the greatest characters, but
I would like them to die.
And
you'll see the reason why she's the way she is in the 3rd episode.
It's a good payoff. I look
forward to seeing that.
Also, the part where he beats the shit out of the mortician's assistant, I'm like, dude, I get that you're not the biggest guy in the world, but hit that bitch. Why are you letting her throw you around your office like a fucking rag doll right now?
Probably the worst part is that black girl really wasn't good at martial arts. The Asian one,
oh my
she
God,
was really good.
Accommodating when the three guys that dropped off the cigarette machine got their asses kicked by her.
Like she was not good in the action
into a
sequence.
Single strike, and yet she was knocking those guys down like they were like she was giving them just the biggest haymaker they'd ever felt in their lives.
Yeah, but the Asian girl was really good.
Well, the Asian girl was smooth. Yeah, she's like an actual badass in real life.
I know you could you could see that on screen. I'm like, okay, I believe her. She could kick ass. I totally believed her character.
Now that we're into spoilers and Brahma's seen the whole thing, I'm going to say it right now. I think she's going to end up being John Wick's mom.
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like
Winston, that one in the first episode.
Yeah, Winston's brother. Because if you look at their fighting styles, the way they framed their fighting styles, like and especially in the first episode, when she's fighting the people and she's like picking the things up within the kitchen to just fight
dude, in the first episode when he's escaping the Continental, he looks like John Wick.
Yeah, and his fighting, and I was talking to my father because we watched it together, and I was like, if you look at him, in real life, Keanu's half Japanese,
his dad's Hawaiian from Asian descent.
Yeah. It would fit to create Keanu. And then I was like, here's what I think happens, and I was wrong by the end of it. I thought that she would, the end of the story, and they cut it off earlier than that, would be her having the kid and getting, removed. And then Winston lets the people who owe him favors,
uncle and adopted father.
Yeah. Raise John Wick into the one family that he ends up with, and that's why Winston was constantly watching out for him in a way that was so counterintuitive to his character.
And why in John Wick 4 he calls him his son.
Yep.
No, I think that's kind of exactly where they're going with it.
There's clues for that, because when you first meet Yin,
there are clues for that just in the first and second episode.
Yep.
Right, in the first episode, she obviously was going to tell him something right before all the crap starts,
and she didn't want to go on the run. She wanted to stay there in their little home that they'd made for themselves. And I think it was flowers in the pot.
And I think, was it in the second episode where they did the flashbacks to when she was being like yelled at about having children and all that stuff before she met her husband,
Frank.
So they foreshadowed very hard that she was pregnant.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
And I think that's a good arc. I think she was a great character. I think she earned it. And in all honesty, she should be that badass because like a dojo chick, her brother, the army vet that hangs out with them,
Miles, Lou, and Lemmy.
Miles, Lou, and Lemmy. They should be less awesome because they're not part of the Continental world.
They're barely
even aware that it exists.
You'll see that in the third episode. The only major fight that Lou has is
the fucking neighborhood and kicks everybody's ass. And
she won't be doing that again.
There was
that doesn't happen anymore.
That I just didn't need an episode.
No, in fact, I did like the callback with Lou with where he gets in the fight. I think in
Lou's the chick.
Lou. Okay,
which brother is Miles and Lemmy is the third guy.
Yeah, was it Lemmy down in the mailroom?
In the mail, yes.
I liked the Lemmy in the mailroom fight a lot.
Wasn't John Wick an orphan that was raised by the ballerina people?
That's why I think the mom is going to end up getting killed after she has the baby.
There.
Now, I still haven't seen number 4 yet, but that's I've heard people say the my son thing. I think that's more just a term of endearment.
No, it's not.
I think it's specific to him.
Otherwise, why would you be an orphan?
One person who calls him my son, other than like a priest.
But then why would you? Because then, if you're an orphan, Like, you get adopted by the person.
Yeah, but Yeti, remember, this is in the John Wick hyper assassin world.
Yeah.
So at this point, Winston would have been knee deep in running the Continental for the high table. He's clearly not going to want to let people know he has a son, because we see what happens with
people. And better than being an orphan. Furthermore, if the high table found out that John Wick was Frankie's son, they'd have killed his ass. So he probably was like, not only do I not want the high table to find out about this, but I got to get him as far away from here as possible.
Same thing that Halle Berry did with people. Halle Berry does that with her kid in John Wick. Was that 3?
3.
Yeah, that was 3.
Yep.
She has to give up her kid because she's running the hotel to keep the kid safe.
Yep.
And that's where I there's also the part of me that thinks that because of that plot point, that it could be Winston's kid, and that this is part of the price of being because the way they leave it at the end of this miniseries, the high table hasn't given the thumbs up for him running the Continental. And so there's there's still story from point A to point C of him being, from him being a grifter to him being the guy who runs the Continental for 40 years.
Yeah.
So, and given what we know about the John Wick world and the random weird things the high table exacts from you as a cost, it would make sense that they could force him to give up. But because Winston's Winston, he would not just give up on his son. He would make sure he was knee deep in keeping an eye on him.
Well, son or nephew.
Yeah. So it could work either way.
So from what it sounds like, I'm hoping you guys are right. And episode 3 brings me back. I do agree with Yeti to a certain extent. I think there was a lot of incorporation of progressive subplots into the second episode. A lot of girl bossing, a lot of stupid shit. The end of the second episode sucked me right back in.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
In the worst possible way. And anyone who says that Mel Gibson is a detriment to this series is out of their fucking minds. Now, whoever wrote his lines for that part, fuck that person, because they were really cheesy. Like, really.
I didn't even notice. I was just getting sucked in, like.
Dude, I shit you not. He was like, I think I'll take a mulligan.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Right. And then he's like, maybe I'll go for another drive after this. And he just started making stupid golf puns the whole fucking time.
Yeah, no, I do remember that. But Mel Gibson was selling it that I didn't care.
Oh, he sold it.
Holy
Don't
shit.
Get me wrong. He sold it.
Yeah.
Well, also, a crazy man murdering you with a golf club while making dad jokes is just, it's both terrifying and cringe.
But in a good way for this one.
I think the reason they did it is to show that Cormac is not actually very sophisticated, because there's another thing happening in that scene.
Yeah.
The kid Thomas is playing the song from Don Giovanni and tells him it's about being loyal to a master.
Yeah.
And Chad, I know you've already seen episode 3, but I actually got this. We can go back and check the tape on Comics Division channel. The actual theme of Don Giovanni is a person wielding power and influence to get what he wants, and it ultimately leads to his demise.
Yeah.
That's what the theme of that is. So the kid is actually mocking him to his face. Well, even though he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Maybe that's why he killed the kid. Maybe he knew the joke.
No, I think the whole thing is to show that he's not sophisticated like all the rest of the people around him. Because Tyrone is sophisticated and educated.
Not a sophisticated man. It is actually the simplicity of his ways that works so well for him.
Yeah.
Well, he's just a powerful thug.
But
the first Yeti getting sucked in.
I know. I gotta see the third to see what the payoffs were. But as of
I
this
think
moment, there's a lot of stuff that should have been on the cutting room floor, and he could have streamlined it.
Once you see it, you're gonna understand, because
I'm down for a watch party after we're done.
Oh yeah,
we can do that.
Because I'll tell you one, I think Brahma would agree. I didn't see one of the payoffs coming at all, and it made so much sense once I knew it, that it reframed everything and actually made it work a lot better for me.
I will say, depending on what Yeti means by there being a lot of stuff that could go on the cutting room floor. If you're talking about a lot of stuff in episode 2, I agree with you. Episode 1, I wouldn't have cut anything. I liked episode
most of the stuff was from episode 2. There's some stuff in episode 1, like here, but nothing crazy, nothing really standing out, you know.
Let me advocate for episode 2, because having seen all 3, I'm going to tell you, episode 1 is a balls to the wall, like going the entire time kind of episode, right? You open up really fast. You're doing the heist.
It's the history, the setting, and the introduction.
Yeah, but the issue is doing the exposition dump.
No, but episode 2 is the breather you need. Like that's where you get space to breathe.
No, but there's breathers and there's boring. Well, like it's exposition dumps that aren't set up properly. Like just a random conversation, like to jump into their backstory rather than having it done in a nuanced and.
But I don't think that it's. I think it is being better. It is being done nuanced. You just don't know it yet because you don't know.
They're bringing the team together like in a heist movie, because it ultimately is a heist action movie.
I'm going to give Brahma a little chat that if they were bringing them together for a heist movie and the heist is on in episode 3, that's fine. There's still a lot of things that I could have done without in episode 2.
But then you're going to be looking at episode 3 going, okay, that came out of nowhere. Then we're complaining that they didn't set up what pays off.
Episode 2 is a lot of Chekhov's guns.
One I do think could have been cut.
What's that?
That fucking car chase. It was garbage. It was hot fucking garbage. That was a shit car chase.
I'm trying to think if it
was it. Yeah, that was episode 1, right?
Yeah. When they left the junkyard and the people from the Continental are chasing them and they're shooting at the people from the Continental. The people from the Continental
that was just to get from point A to point B.
They literally cut feed a couple of times so you couldn't see what was happening at all. And then all of a sudden you see the car going down the street and it flips because it drives up on like a curb that was a hill. And I was just
trying to think, because Brahma, and I can't remember offhand, does the car being damaged and then going back to where it goes pay? Is that involved with the payoff that comes from being in that zone later?
Well, they were obviously
really. Okay.
Like the car.
That was the only thing I was thinking, because there is something that comes about.
It's a major spoiler, and I'll save that one for offline with you.
The car chase is fine, but like
the way it's done,
the quality of the car chase is absolutely terrible. Like
I'm with Slender there.
Yeah, I think they're just that was not all the stuff is going to be super great on a TV budget. On the plus side, they were doing it practically.
Car chases in Burn Noticed, and I can guarantee you their episodes had less budget than this.
Yeah, maybe. Might have gone to Mel Gibson. So
that's true. They did have Mel Gibson.
I'm sticking with the series as one of the best 3 episodes of anything we've seen in quite a while.
I think as a complete story, it's pretty awesome. Yep.
Like I said, I had it at probably an 8.5 or a 9 after the first episode. Car chase was a big one for me that I didn't like, but the characters are amazing. Most of the characters, in all honesty, I like most of the characters, even the ones that are girl bossing. I still find them to be compelling characters. I just wish they didn't have to girl boss them so hard. And that's
there's really the only one that's girl bossing. Well, 2, I guess.
I'll say that
the investigator and Lou,
hard, and the dojo girl.
The dojo girl is the girl bossing. The other one, I think, totally fits.
I will tell you this:
in Vietnam, fighting against with guerrilla warfare.
Fits fine.
Like I buy her
either.
Brahma can back me up. In the 3rd episode, you're going to see there's going to be a sequence where Lou Girl Boss gets completely overwhelmed, but for other things.
What's it but for?
It's set up getting paid off.
It's Chekhov's guns coming back in.
Well, and the only other major chick in the series is the Queen of the Bowery, and they actually did something interesting there. There was actually in the 1940s in New York a woman named Maisie who is known as the Queen of the Bowery. So they were using an actual historical type figure and reusing it to create the Bowery there. And then the Bowery King is actually on the rooftop behind her. The guy who becomes the Bowery King, he's the one messing with the birds, the pigeons behind her.
Yeah, that's Lawrence Fishburne's character, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the idea that they're setting up, like, you got to. I like from a world building standpoint, they are showing that these things existed to a certain extent before John Wick entered the show.
Well, it was obvious they existed because, I mean, that was the brilliance of the first John Wick, is they really showed and didn't tell. Everything in there was implied through great scenes, like just from grabbing the money, and nobody ever talks about it. It's just there, and it sets it up in such a great way. Like, it's powerful storytelling.
I loved. When the detective girl goes into the Continental and orders a drink and then tries to pay with cash.
And then everybody gets their gun.
Everybody, like, the whole fucking tone of that room changed just on a dime.
Everybody knows she's an imposter. Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing that's just fantastic in this series, and it's there in episode 3, but not maybe to the same degree, or I didn't notice it as much in episode 3. The music in this series is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The soundtrack is amazing.
And one of the things I think for, like, with the Lou character, I think they're going for a blaxploitation 70s vibe with her. And
Absolutely.
so I give more leeway with her fighting, because I feel like it's almost supposed to be like what's her name? Jackie Brown.
Well, any of the blaxploitation stuff.
Yeah. But no, that's what I thought they were going with. Like, it was pretty clear they were setting that up.
But when you're playing into that vibe, you can get away with a little bit less, like, high-end stunt work kind of thing.
No, because it's the same reason why I despised the second movie. Ruby Rose sucks as an actress and sucks fighting. She's absolutely terrible and detracts from the movie. Garbage.
Well, number one, they didn't let her say a word, and number two, they killed her.
She still sucked as an actress
while they're fighting. If other characters are going to look super awesome while they're fighting, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy it when the one person on the set who doesn't know how to fight pretends.
Yes.
Get her some fucking combat training. Teach her how to do stage martial arts.
Hire someone else that can do it.
Do something. But that wasn't it.
You have to hire someone that can do it, because you could see the difference between the Asian girl and that black girl. Like, the Asian one, you're like, holy shit, she knows how to do this. It was so crisp.
Fights MMA, and her husband choreographs fights for movies, and they own a dojo.
Yeah, so you could see how crisp and clean that all is. The other girl, you're like, okay, she doesn't know how to stand. She's like, she would break her fist if she actually threw that punch. It was bad. You got to totally change that.
She never followed through on a punch. She never fucking rolled her hips into the punches. She was pathetic.
It was like the arm movements were so basic. Yeah. Like, it was painful to watch that. You got to change that.
Stiff, and she never followed through on a strike.
Well, I think we can all agree that was probably the worst scene, and it's probably the worst scene in the whole series. So
that's a good thing. If that's the worst scene, then we're okay.
Yeah,
we'll probably
that's
be
what
all
we're
right.
trying to tell you.
Exactly.
Don't concentrate too much on that scene. It's not. It's not that major in the overall thing.
I get what you're trying to tell me, but I will remind you that little Chad was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to defend episode 2 now."
Well, episode 2 had to be there.
Yeah, because I think you guys are not understanding the narrative structure of giving a breathing room to establish the story. I fully
understand.
To gather the team, to set the stage, because the next episode is again going fairly all action.
There's a difference between good breathing room and bad breathing room.
That's what I said earlier.
But I don't think you can really rate it as bad breathing room till you see the payoffs that come from it. And once you see the payoffs.
I can.
All right. Well,
weren't you specifically telling us earlier, little Chad, that you should judge each episode individually?
Oh, snap!
All All right,
pew,
fine.
pew.
Well, then I still
You're
think
like,
it was
no,
pretty good.
Episode 2 is good because of episode 3.
Because I still didn't think episode 2 was that bad anyway.
I think
like
a miniseries is a different animal too.
Yeah, I think I'm too used to watching miniseries. I've watched North and South, War and Remembrance, Winds of War, all these things like a dozen times. And so I'm used to miniseries structure
too, but like that doesn't change the fact that certain episodes will be better than others, and there's always going to be one episode that's the worst.
But I'm saying that this one is clearly not as good as the first or the third, but that doesn't mean it's a bad episode of television.
Right.
If we're gonna go
6.5, that's not technically a bad rating, man. That's certified fresh.
All right, we'll go with that. Then we're in agreement.
All right, there we go.
I think it's a little bit better than that, but
yeah, we'll see. Me and Brahma are on the same page on that, but yeah, hit the like, anyone. And I know Soul Assassin's watching on another person's channel, but that goes for ours too. You can.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone watching my channel aside from.
I've got a link to your channel in my channel.
I know it's doing well.
We've
picked up 6 subs tonight. Good for us. Yay. Good. We'll see if they stick. Sometimes they drop off within the first 24 hours. But now that we've
stuff like that's just
now I'm prepared to take my lumps because I'm going to end up being the Tina Bojan now because we're going to talk just for a minute about Loki.
Oh,
do we have to?
Speaking of Tina, did you guys see her anniversary tweet?
No, what was that?
It was her and her husband and talking about how something. It was their anniversary, and she was saying it was the best decision she's ever made. And I had to resist saying that is the ultimate bad take. Instead, I just said grats.
I do remember that.
I didn't watch the first Loki. I don't plan on watching this one because it looks awful. It looks like everything else Marvel does now. It looks like it's bad.
So it looks like Tina.
And I saw he gets kicked in the balls again. So what I hear is emasculated every corner. Like,
okay, so
I don't see a whole lot of him being emasculated in this episode.
No, he didn't.
How many times does he get kicked in the balls throughout the series?
Well,
and then you start episode 1 with getting kicked in the balls.
I don't think he got kicked in the balls in this episode.
I saw a screenshot video of him getting kicked in the balls.
No.
Okay. I don't recall it. They might have been at the very beginning because it was the first episode of season 2. They did a recap. Oh, one of those quick like.
Maybe that was it. But like I said, I didn't actually watch it. I just saw a clip of him getting kicked in the balls. Like, oh shit! So same as normal.
All right, so
and I haven't seen it, so this is Chad on Slender violence, or Slender on Chad violence.
No, the only person here who has seen it is Chad. I watched a bunch of clips and read the synopsis because I saw he had put it in our title, like we were going to talk about it. So,
well, Tina said it was glorious, so I'm going to be a little bit lower key than that. But all right, so I pulled up a screenshot that's on IMDb, and the reason that I think this episode is pretty good is the 3 males in this picture. You've got Owen Wilson, you've got Ke-Huy Quan, also known as Short Round, and you've got Tom Hiddleston. Most of the show is interactions with them together, and they have good chemistry. It's the humor comes off because especially Ke-Huy Quan. He's got this. I'm sure you guys did. Everybody see like Everything Everywhere All at Once?
The Goonies.
Yeah, but I'm saying is, did anyone see Everything Everywhere All at Once? Right?
Half of it.
So what he's really good at like playing straight man comedically, to the events that are happening around him. I think it was good casting to choose to put him in after that movie because it's one of those things where his cred comes over from being in a good multiverse movie. And it's just their chemistry works. Like Tom Hiddleston, time jumping, time slipping, as they called it in the episode, back and forth with the different characters of Wilson and Ke-Huy Quan. Also, it just works. And in this standalone episode, where they are the ones acting off each other for pretty much all of it, it works really well.
They still destroyed, Marvel destroyed one of their best villains. Like, Loki is no longer a threat. He's just, they absolutely like cut him off at the knees. He was a badass before, and now he's this.
First off, there, Todd Howard. It just works. I don't know that it just works. I'm definitely gonna push back on it just works, because there are certain things that worked, but Owen Wilson is boring as fuck.
But that's what he's playing in this show. He's playing like kind of a boring guy. And I'm sorry, I've been a fan ever since. Did you ever watch the Royal Tenenbaums?
You're killing me right now.
I like the Royal.
Slender's dying inside.
Just so many times today, Lil Chad, I've been like, this sucks. And you're like, but that's because it's supposed to.
It's supposed to be bad.
It's supposed to suck. So I like it because of that.
He's playing a dry, boring kind of character. And
I get that. And like the sets
so
are
you're
good.
holding
the
against him.
Look cool. But their chemistry is good, but they don't have anything interesting to say.
You haven't even watched the episode. You've read like descriptions.
I've seen enough of the dialogue. I know the scenes you're talking about because those are the ones that everyone keeps highlighting in their reviews. And yeah, they're funny, they're quippy, they're clever. They're not important. They don't progress story. And these would be better served as non-contiguous shorts where funny shit happens in a vacuum and it has nothing to do with the next episode. Instead of being this long-form story where they have a broad arc that's going to span the entire season, these would be better as standalone shorts. They really would.
Or it'd be better making Loki into a badass villain, not
Loki
a joke.
was never a badass villain, Yeti. Shut up.
Dude, he was setting things up. He always set things up.
He got smashed into the ground by the Hulk 20 times in his first movie.
And he walked away.
And then the Hulk said, puny God.
Yeah, and he walked away.
He was never a badass.
He was setting things up. He was always the trickster that pulled things into the background.
Oh, I think Tina's taking her Ambien. She's getting a little feisty. If you didn't see the episode, shut your trap and let Jack talk.
The episode was it was a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing.
It was one episode. I fully expect by the end of the season they're going to blow anything good that they had going. This was a good episode.
No, this was a bad episode with a good scene. You really think that argument when they were talking to the judge in the courtroom around the big table was a good scene?
In the context of the episode, it was fine.
No, it wasn't. You lied to yourself, Lil Chad.
It was fine. You
want to like this so that Bad Take Bojan will let you hang out in her club.
I'm gonna tell you again. As soon as Sylvie popped up at the end, I was not happy. But it was an after-credit sequence with her going to a McDonald's. I felt like that was stupid, but to me, after credit doesn't really count towards the episode.
Dude, that was stupid. The scene in the courtroom was stupid. A lot of the other crap that happened didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Like what?
Like when they were chasing him and he ran to the right, but then came back the other way and jumped off the balcony and somehow landed in a truck. What if he hadn't landed in that truck? I'm confused.
A character jumping out a window into flying vehicles happens all the time in sci-fi stuff. I'm going to just say, Fifth Element, she jumped out a window and landed in a cab. You got the Star Wars movies where... Cab? No, she just fell through the window and then landed in the cab.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Remember Leeloo Dallas and he was like, what
yes, but Leeloo Dallas Multipass also wasn't intelligent or capable of fucking sustaining her own life. I wouldn't think Loki would be dumb enough to jump off the side of a building if he didn't know there was a truck there.
Someone agrees with you. Loki is like Thrawn, masterminds that got served retarded scripts. Those woke retards just cannot write smart, but how could they?
That is all current Marvel. Everything Marvel has done since the end of Endgame.
So the showrunner from the first season that wrote and directed like every episode is gone. So I'm hoping that whoever took over might try to fix it. The first episode seemed good on its face. Again, I expect once they try to bring in the greater story and Sylvie, it's going to go off the rails. But this one was a good episode. It was good. It was fine. The story, it made sense with the actors doing it. They were committed to the story. It worked well for this episode.
I mean, they're good actors and they give good performances. I will give you that. But the material they are working with is slop. It's absolute slop.
I think to a certain extent, the new showrunner is stuck with what he got from the first season and trying to move forward from there.
Where is this all leading? Because all these stories are supposed to lead to some big bad being set up, and it's all gone to nothing.
To Kang the Conqueror.
Garbage.
Oh yeah, Tom Hiddleston does a better job insinuating Kang as a villain than anybody's done so far.
Yeah, by putting giant statues of him in a boardroom.
Pineapple Express, yeah, every movie now. I liked Pineapple Express. It made me laugh.
But they haven't done a good job at setting up King.
You got killed by a Daewoo.
Pineapple Express Seth Rogen?
Yeah, that was.
Funny.
Yeah, then there's no way I liked it.
It was before he got like overexposed.
That's when he was funny.
It was back in like super bad days.
Yeah, he was never funny though.
This was fine. I'm sorry.
I know a lot of people think he is, but his laugh pisses me off. His voice pisses me off. His face pisses me off. When I see him, I get angry. I can't laugh.
plus, that was one I
feel like that now.
Looking back, Amber Heard was a crazy teenager sleeping with an older man just for the cred, so that worked as well.
No, I didn't even know she was in the movie.
She was the high school girlfriend.
I had no idea.
Right.
And Danny McBride as the drug dealer. I just love when you got killed by a Daewoo, bitch. It just it just makes you laugh. And then at the very beginning, the like black and white footage of
illegal
when he's just like doing the stuff, he's like, this is fucking amazing. Why aren't we giving it to everybody?
Now, Sturmhart has the perfect review. That's the perfect review of this episode.
The looks of it and the acting is top notch, but I am done with empty promises and MacGuffins. It's so dumb. Years of teasing and Easter eggs, and in the end, the payoff is a floppy dildo.
I mean, you could probably use a floppy dildo for something, but you can't do anything with the Marvel stuff now.
Like Tina coming in with the series is leading to Deadpool, and Deadpool is leading to Kang Dynasty and bringing the X-Men into the secret.
Where did everything else lead? Everything else was crap that led to nothing. It has been such utter garbage.
Well, it's crap that leads to crap that leads to the next crap that leads to the next crap. I mean, Critical Drinker, Mahler, they've all said it. We've all heard them say it. I mean, it's get through this to get to the next thing.
It's just been utterly painful to watch.
Yeah, they don't have shows that stand on their own.
Just consumed product and then get excited for next product.
Exactly.
It seems we went from women having daddy issues to men having mommy issues. I mean,
yes, we have covered the entire spectrum this evening on the Ascendant Art Podcast, a Yeti Cast production.
Yes,
produced by Brahma Bull.
Produced by Brahma Bull.
And sponsored by Brahma Bull's Milk.
You make a point. I would trade one for Disney right now.
Yeah, like at least you can like wave it around and look crazy, and I don't know, put it on your neighbor's car, for a laugh. You can't do anything with Marvel right now.
I don't know if I've seen Tina this like incensed in chat in a long time. She's like
Werewolf by Night. That was the one good thing. Werewolf by Night was actually good. It was a really well shot, black and white. Great acting. It all made sense.
Awesome one.
That was fantastic.
Please kick my balls, Marvel mantra. Yeah. If they make a She-Hulk season 2, that is the official Marvel mantra is please kick my balls. Because that show didn't perform.
I thought that was in the works.
It's allegedly in the works. I haven't seen anything official that actually says it is. I think it might have been somebody filling space because of the strike. because they're under no objective metric did She-Hulk perform to justify a season 2.
But when have they ever had to justify it? Like, they stopped justifying it a very long time ago. Like, they're just putting out in spite of what viewers actually think. They don't care anymore. They stopped caring 2 decades ago. Or maybe a decade ago. They don't give a shit if the things are doing well. I mean, how many movies have come out that from Disney that have utterly flopped? They're not making changes. They make superficial comments
over there.
And Tina with the right comment. Season 2 or not, She-Hulk smash that like button for our streams. Whether it's on my channel here with Slender, whether it's on Yeti's channel, or whether it's on Brahma's channel, smash that like button.
Yeah, go to my channel and smash the like button.
Yeah, we're not on season 2. What is this? You said episode 88? That means we're like 11 seasons in.
Yeah, and this is the kind of ad that you're going to get from the new Disney Plus shows that are coming up.
This is Sean Connery for Brahma Bull's Milk.
Oh,
it's a creamy and salty treat that America has enjoyed for generations. Fortified with a load of protein, each drop of bull's milk is squeezed out by hand, sometimes by 2. Remember, folks, as Brahma Bull says, any time is a swell time for a mouthful of bull's milk. Available at fine retailers and sperm banks everywhere.
So who else is hard?
I figured it out. I had to mute. It was coming through Brahma's mic at the same time.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
It's okay. Oh, Tina says they are slowing down the production schedule for quality, allegedly. Well, they better because it's not Marvel, but the second week of Ahsoka being on the Nielsen ratings has shown up, and this fucker is dropping like a goddamn rock.
I refuse to watch
down
that
to 7.
So down to, and so so the first week it was out, they dropped 2 episodes. So then episode 3 was rated on its own, and that was a little higher. I think that was rated 3 or 4, and this is episode 4, and it's already dropped down to 7th place.
Can we point something out real quick though? Because I'm looking right, and I'm like, wow, Wheel of Time #3 on Prime Video, but then look at the minutes watched in millions.
Yeah.
And that is not good for a #3 slot. Those are really low numbers.
So the rule of thumb, yeah, the rule of thumb for streaming, from what I've been, from us looking at these numbers, unless you're hitting a really high 900s to 1 billion minutes watched, the show's not really clicking. Anything below that is just kind of like blah. I will say this: Paramount Plus with Special Ops Lioness getting in there, even at number 8. Paramount Plus never charts ever. So this is the first time
over for a few weeks.
Yeah. So this will Nielsen is always 4 weeks behind.
It's pretty popular during its time.
Yeah. So this was the week of September 4th through 10th. I think this was the finale week.
That was probably the finale then. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point being, they're probably happy with that because they don't chart at all. So Lioness actually charted for them.
I didn't even know Wheel of Time came back out.
But the thing with Wheel of Time,
second season for some reason.
After the first, I couldn't even finish the first season because they've
already been greenlit for season 3, and season 2 was trash.
But they butchered.
The books have been completely butchered by the show.
I mean,
they Ring of Power.
One was pretty bad too, right?
Sorry? So Strumhard over here saying that Valiant Renegade made a chart that looks proper. It started weak and slides into oblivion. That's about where it's going. I think there might be a jump up because if everybody remembers, episode 5 of Ahsoka was the Anakin Jingle Keys episode.
Yeah, I didn't care.
I didn't watch it. But...
No, but I think that because it got
key jangling has lost all effect.
I will put
shit anymore.
We can double check on it next week when the ratings come out. But I bet Ahsoka jumps. It's at 459. I would say it probably jumps at least into the 500-600s off the Anakin key jangling.
No, I bet it continues to slide because people just care less and less.
I don't know. I think
we'll see.
Anakin, like just people like Star Wars Theory were hyping it, and so it got people who.
We'll say this, little chat. We'll say this: if it clears 600, then it did well. But the week after, if it's below 300, then it didn't like. That's a spike. It didn't change track.
It got its views, but then it lost people. Yeah.
Yep.
But
is there on its downward trend?
One thing that we can get out of this,
Netflix crushes everybody else.
No, that One Piece was a very faithful adaptation to the anime, and because of that, people loved it, and the ratings show. It's number 2 up there. Amazing viewership.
So I'm going to show something
received.
Yeah.
So I'll show you how good.
Probably the only one I wish they hadn't done a faithful adaptation for, because I've watched some of the One Piece anime and I couldn't like it. I tried.
Okay, so some of the stuff doesn't translate well, but the acting is really well done. And once you buy into, okay, this is crazy, and you accept it, you go from there.
It is bad.
You just get into the world.
I just hate the drawing, like the art style. I hate it.
Well, I think for One Piece, the reason the art style is the way it is because they are fucking.
Because they're cranking out like 20 episodes a week.
Yeah, it is. My God, if you want to talk about like sometimes there's an intimidation factor to getting into a show that's been on a little bit. You look at One Piece and it's like, oh, it's only got 1,000 goddamn episodes.
Well,
I'm on episode 20.
It's one of those ones because my sons have always told me I should try One Piece. I should watch Naruto and everything else. I'm like, Naruto sucks, and they're like, no, but after the 3rd season, it's really good. And then it's like, One Piece sucks. Yeah, but after episode 112, it's really good. It's like, I'm not gonna watch.
I started.
Literally seasons worth of show for it to get good.
This Netflix adaptation convinced me, okay, I'm going to start diving into the anime. And so I started doing that.
Good luck.
So, I hope you got some time on your hands because you're going to be there a while.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a slog.
Out of high school.
But
it's like I can say Brahma and I both had hair when that thing started.
I work on the traditional metric. I will give an anime 3 episodes. If by the end of episode 3 I am not hooked, I move on to a new anime.
Let's see. I skipped season 4 of One Piece in the animation. I skipped to season 4 of One Piece, and the animation is better. Wouldn't recommend first 2 because of bad animation. So that's in the vein of what your kids were telling you, Slender. Just start
pretty much.
Just jump in somewhere.
If you keep the goofy things out that make Japanese anime culture, you end up having Cowboy Bebop.
No, that's a different issue because they fundamentally changed the story and the characters.
Hey, Slender, what was that line that Faye said as she was crashing into the fight to win it for
welcome to the ouch motherfuckers?
Yeah. That was so stupid.
They fundamentally changed what Cowboy Bebop was.
So
where One Piece you could almost tone down by 10% the weirdness because it doesn't transfer to the live action screen as well as an animated. But I wouldn't go much more than that because then you're just going to lose all the flair and what makes that world wonderful. Like, so there is a very weird balance in One Piece for the live action that, like, Cowboy Bebop, that should have been such an easy home run because it doesn't suffer from the same type of silly weirdness that One Piece does. Like, people aren't rubber bands and dislocating themselves.
You don't have Luffy like
Cowboy Bebop was very grounded. Like, it's not an absurd, over-the-top anime in most ways.
Yeah, that's why Cowboy Bebop should have been an absolute home run, knock out of the park, best thing ever, because you don't have to count on on people going, why the hell is this guy stretching, and why is this guy dislocating his arms? Like you could have had something amazing and they fucked it up.
Could have, yeah.
It would have been the best thing that Netflix has probably done, but no, all they had
to do was do a very close and faithful retelling of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
in a live action setting.
Absolutely.
They didn't have to change the characters. They didn't have to come up with this crazy Julia side plot. They didn't have to do any of this dumb shit that they did. And
it was all right there.
They would have had the most popular series on television probably for the whole fucking year.
It would have been setting records. Yeah. Just like you see One Piece, and it could have been better than One Piece. Easily.
Yeah, easily.
This is a good line from Empress, and except for Ed, she'd be nearly impossible to work out with. Like Ed is the translating Cowboy Bebop. The one thing that probably would have needed to be adjusted pretty drastically is Ed. Ed isn't going to work the way it does in anime in live action. You've got to make changes for that to be work. But you could have done that and not had problems. And that's
the live action.
Yeah.
You could have kept the core of Ed's character. All you have to do with Ed's character is, instead of making her kind of the way she was in the anime, dial it back a little and make her the quiet, quirky hacker.
Yeah. You can't. What was really weird about the Cowboy Bebop anime is the live action version is they made all these changes to the source material. And then at the end, the very last moments, they tried to do Ed as real, as like authentic Ed as possible. And it was so stupid. It didn't work. Slender knows this. The Cowboy Bebop show is seared into his brain.
This is where One Piece
and for Soul Assassin, no, the creator of Cowboy Bebop has no rights at all to the actual content. He made it as a work for hire. So what's the animation studio? Sunrise? Is it Sunrise?
No idea.
Oh, gee, I don't remember.
But whichever the anime company studio is owns Cowboy Bebop lock, stock, and they license it out. So the creator will not be involved. And as much as the One Piece creator,
supposedly they brought him on as a consultant, but they probably didn't listen to anything he said.
No, he actually
never do.
No, he did an interview where he said they didn't really want to listen to anything, so he didn't bother saying anything.
Yep.
So, because there was no point. Because it was a funny interview because they were asking about it. He's like, "Well, that's not my Cowboy Bebop at all," and they were like, "Weren't you involved?" They
he was like, I mean, I'm grateful. It made a lot of people want to go back and watch my Cowboy Bebop again. Yeah. So that's good.
that's what I did.
But I mean, there's no reason to try to remake Cowboy Bebop again. I mean, there's a billion animes that they could go, adapt if they chose to.
I don't know.
Hopefully with the creators' input.
So if you want to see one thing that's like so I switched over to the overall numbers just to show you that One Piece is super successful. It's charting with everything. It's up there with mega hit Suits. Suits has been the number one show on streaming ratings for like 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That show like 20 years old?
Yeah.
Meghan Markle wasn't.
Very old.
It's been canceled for a few years. But
yeah. I when it came to Netflix, I went and watched the whole 9 seasons in about a week and a half.
Several years ago, I watched like a handful of seasons of it, and I thought it was pretty good, but
it's a well-acted show.
Last thing I remember was Lick was like blackmailing someone so that they'd make him a partner.
Yeah, well, that happens basically the whole series. I mean,
it's
one of those shows that you could just have on in the background, like Law and Order, that kind of thing.
If anybody remembers, the right comparison would probably be to LA Law. If you remember that TV show from the
or
late
Boston
80s,
Legal,
90s, or Boston Legal, it's the legal procedural that has a little bit of sexiness to it. That's what they.
It's mostly the personal relationships.
Yeah,
very little bit about actual practicing law.
That's LA Law is like that. They're trying to get like hot looking people in suits, in this case suits, business suits. And
I'll just watch Better Call Saul.
I mean, I think that would be a better show. In fact, actually, don't watch Better Call Saul. Go rent Nobody. That movie is fantastic.
Nobody's amazing.
Even though Odenkirk is a dick.
Odenkirk is a dick, but that movie is so good.
I want to like him too. That's I really want him to be a good guy, and then you hear all this crap and like, oh, come on, man. I want to like him.
Never want to like anybody from Hollywood because they're probably going to fail you.
I'm going to be on anybody who was on Mr. Show is going to be making statements politically that you're not going to be happy with. If you go back and look at that show, it was, Odenkirk.
It wasn't just two guys.
No, because Sarah Silverman was in the cast. There was a whole bunch of like that whole comedy group type people.
Oh, I thought it was like those main two.
Well, they were the main two, Bob Odenkirk and
I can't remember the other guy's name at this point. He was bigger up until
David Cross.
Breaking Bad. David Cross.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that guy's such an idiot.
Yeah, the other people that were on that were like Brian Posehn, Paul F. Tompkins, Sarah Silverman. I mean, so you can see
comedy was funny.
Well, they did really funny bits, and that would get them completely canceled today if anybody ever watched them.
They would cancel them today. Is the thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was one where the end of the bit was a company that had made its money in the slave trade before they became like a current multi-billion-dollar company. And the joke punchline is the guy going, "We started this company with a simple motto: people selling people to people." And it was like, and just like you can't in 2023 they would be picketed and canceled, and they'd have to do their hostage video apologies before they still get even more canceled.
Which is asinine because it's clearly making
about trafficking, and then they'd praise it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if Mel Gibson said something, and whoever, I forget what the FBI agent guy that Caviezel played, who they're
Sound of Freedom guy.
Yeah, they are going hard on him now. Like,
yeah, they've been trying to destroy his life.
Because he would mention that I guess he was going to run in Utah. Was it going to be maybe Senate for
running for Romney's seat?
And as soon as they sniff someone who might not be about the agenda on that grounds, they are going to like everything.
Oh Lord, you guys are going to places.
Yeah.
Let's go watch the